Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for the one and only show? Live from Houston, Texas. It's the go-to girl, professional comedian, TV producer, and founder of MarriedDate.com. It's millionaire matchmaker, Amber.
Hey guys, welcome to Married Date Monday here on the Matchmaker Hotline. It's your girl, Matchmaker comedian Amber Neal, and I'm joined today by my amazing co-host, Shaman Eric Davis. Yay, welcome to the show. I can't wait till we get a studio audience so we're not having to like clap for each other.
Yeah, I know some people that are planning to come in actually.
You do?
Like next week or the week after.
Oh, that'd be really cool. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, it is my birthday week. Cash at Matchmaker Amber if anybody cares.
Amber, happy birthday.
Thank you. You guys can go right now. We are in a new studio, so we're getting our new phone line set up. So what I'm doing for now, since you can't call into the hotline, you can actually if you're really if you do your due diligence, my phone number is everywhere on the internet. So you technically could call me, but please don't call my cell phone. I'm in the middle of a broadcast. But you can put your questions on our live stream on Facebook. I'm going to go there now so I can keep up with you guys. It's Edge Radio Network, and you'll see where the show is live. And go ahead and put your questions there. I'm going to go in right now, and I'm going to be able to answer your questions as we're live on the show. So how was your weekend, Eric?
Oh, it was an amazing weekend.
Yeah, what'd you do?
Really amazing weekend. So I have this place in Conroe where I'm helping build a retreat center for spirituality and spiritual growth.
Nice.
And we'll probably have maybe adult camp weekends out there and family camp weekends where the whole family goes to summer camp and learns to argue and work things out in healthier manners. We'll probably have a couple of psychotherapists and a couple of healers and some shamans.
A couple of psychos.
Yeah. We got a bunch of psychos in this room. Woo!
I'm like, is that why I got invited? Okay.
Yeah, that's why you're invited. So we have some volunteers and we're out there clearing some land, and we have this place in the back that's about 15 foot tall.
Yeah.
And it's covered in blackberry, grapevines, and beauty berries.
Really?
And so it was like really hard to weed eat and cut through. So we just kind of pushed our way gently through with the tractor, and we created this tunnel. And so now we're thinking about building like a man-made cave under this.
Wow.
As an entry to the back. You have to go through the cave to get to the back. And so it was a lot of discovery. And I caught a black widow yesterday. And I like spiders and snakes. So
you do? Those are like my two things I hate more than anything in the world, like spiders and snakes. Like anything else I think I can probably deal with, but spiders and snakes, I'm telling you. So today we got some really interesting topics. Okay, so let's talk about, I don't know how many topics we can actually get to in the show, but we've got a few. One of the topics we're going to talk about is an article that I found in Psychology Today, if you want to go there and check out the ad. It is from Tanya Lester. She is a licensed counselor, and her article says, the title is, "Your partner is not sure they really want a relationship with you." That's a good one. And we're going to tell you, should you stay or should you go? Next, after that, we're going to talk about, why do people take selfies? Hey. Why is that? So we're going to talk into that, and we're going to find out how that is linked to narcissism and the new research that is showing. So we're going to talk about that. And then the last topic we're going to talk about, I have another topic. So we have some signs that you can check off these things if it is definitely not real love. And so everybody will say, what does love look like? But what does not love look like? And then if we get to it, the last thing we're going to go over is 16 signs you might be a codependent person. And I have to tell you, Eric, when I was reading this, woo! Guilty.
Hit home.
I was like, so that is what I was. Okay. And we're going to talk about that, how, we can stop controlling others and start caring for ourselves. And so much of that is, there's no way to avoid doing the healing work that it takes to stop being codependent. And all that really does steer from your childhood. And we're going to talk about how you can, address these things, and so that you can attract a happier, healthier person. Don't you think? they say like attracts like. What do you think? Do you agree with that?
I think there's two levels here. Like attracts like, and opposites attract.
Oh, yeah, true.
And then sometimes, you get, well, yeah, I think like attract. I think when you have like attracts like, you have a healthier relationship.
Yeah.
But usually one person falls into the boredom. And when they fall into the boredom, they start creeping. Not always, but that seems to be the demise of those relationships frequently. When you have opposites attracting, you have a lot of fighting and arguing and power struggles and control plays it's just that's what I see as being the downfall to those two categories of relationships.
Well, in matchmaking, they have a saying that opposites attract. It's just that they don't really usually stay together. Because what attracted you usually, and I've heard psychotherapist Coty Whalen talk about this too when she's been on the show, is what normally attracts you is what you feel you have a deficit in. So if you're super brave or you're super hustler, go-getter, or kind or whatever, and I don't feel like that's me, then I'm going to try to draw on your strength for that. But
I agree.
After time, you're going to have to understand the healing is not external. You cannot take someone else's attribute and just make them your own without doing the work.
Exactly.
That person did the work to get those things. So that is what we're going to talk about, is how you can really, determine if why your partner may or may not be sure if they want to stay with you. So let's go over this article. If you want to join along, guys, we're in Psychology Today, and the article is titled, "Your Partner Isn't Sure They Want a Relationship. Should you stay or should you go?" I'm sure pretty much all of us at some point have loved someone more than they loved us. It's not always, and your grandma always tells you, honey, find you a man that loves you more than you love him, and that's how you make it work. Is that true, Eric? What do you think?
Well, grandma said something like that. But grandma also told me, go to school and become a rich doctor.
Right.
I came home and I was a rich doctor. And so grandma said, no, it was a rich doctor. So grandmas don't have everything, but they sure do know a lot more than we do. The rocky road we travel, they already turned to gravel.
It's true. It's true. You're getting prolific today. You got a rap album coming out, Eric?
How did you know? Oh, because you're septic. Psychotic. I mean, no. I know. You're psychic. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. I think you had it right the first time. Okay, so number one, basically, when you're trying to determine if somebody wants to be there or doesn't want to be there, let me go back to what I always say. Do you know what I'm going to say? I say it almost every show. People do what they want to do, and people do what you let them.
Yep.
I mean, honestly, if you really just live by those two rules, it'll cut out a lot of BS in your life. But sometimes the area can get kind of gray. Not really sure. It's like, I'm not sure if I'm misreading it. One of the things, I had this conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and they were talking about how sometimes we take what we think is our intuition and we confuse it with our belief systems. That's a big one. Yeah. And ever since I heard that, I'm like, wow, I never really thought about that. Like, how many things are intuitive compared to like what our mother told us about men, or our father told us about relationships, compared to what is our true intuition. You know what I mean? And so let's go through this right here. So number one, I wish that it says, I wish I could tell you that if you do everything right and handle yourself correctly, that the scales will drop from your lover's eyes and you'll be in the top spot. But that's probably what you're already doing, and it's not working. So there's no magic formula to keeping someone off the fence. But here are some ideas to help keep in mind. So let's go over these, Eric. Number one, don't bet your future on someone else's potential.
That one was my big one.
Ooh, me too. Woo! Honey, I could fall in love with some potential.
Oh, I fell in love with a lot of potential.
But that's the bad thing about people like us that are very intuitive. We can read through to the soul and really see like your ability. And sometimes, and that's why I'm having a shirt made. It says no more build-a-boos, because we don't need to build a boo. We need to fall. I need to wear it just to remind myself. But number one, don't bet your future on someone else's potential. People do grow through changes in a relationship. However, after the first year or so, a desire to share one's life and the depth of one's feelings and the enthusiasm about committing to you probably won't grow exponentially. Is what you're getting now enough for you? That's the real question you have to ask yourself. We have an author, best-selling author, Eat, Pray, and Love, Elizabeth Gilbert, a writer who has been extensively chronicled on her relationships, writes, I have fallen in love more times than I care to count with the highest potential of man,
wow,
rather than the man himself. And I have hung on to the relationship for a long time, sometimes far too long, waiting for the man to ascend to his own greatness. Many times in romance, I've been a victim of my own optimism. Guilty, guilty. I have two.
I'll take 10 t-shirts in that
I know, right?
and a PhD.
Seriously, take a picture holding the shirt.
Here's my shirt.
You need to take a picture of you wearing the shirt on your mirror so you can see it when you're getting ready.
Yes.
Because those things are hard to break. I mean, if you're that kind of person, you're naturally intuitive. You're just naturally going to be optimistic. You're naturally going to see the good in things and the good in people. And boy, will that get you caught up quick.
Well, there's two facets there. Is when you see the person's potential, if we're optimistic, and most of the time we are,
yeah,
we just feel they're going to rise to that,
yeah,
and get out of that little cesspool or that
yeah,
little programming that keeps deteriorating the relationship.
Yeah.
The other thing is there's free will. People live in places they're comfortable.
Yeah.
And if somebody is living here and their potential is here, sometimes that's their comfort zone. And when people get into fear, which they do when relationships start coming together tight and close, they often go to what is familiar, which is down here.
Wow, that is so real. That's true, because, you know, it's like some people are so scared of change that they'll stay in a bad situation versus actually try to go out and try to have something new, because even uncomfortableness is comfortable sometimes when that's what you're used to. You're not used to, you know, have you ever heard people say, are you scared of success? Are you scared of being happy? And that's because so many people literally will get a relationship and then go sabotage it because they don't believe they're worthy of the relationship. Your worth issues will jack you up quicker than quick in a minute. Let's go back in here. So let me share this because I was doing a watch party earlier and I think it turned off somehow. Okay. Okay, so basically her advice is be realistic. That's a relative word. You know what I mean? Again, back to your belief systems. Is the person in front of you who you really want? Or are you waiting for them to conform to your fantasy that they could be?
That happens a lot.
That's rough. I'm telling you guys. And, you know, let's say you've been together 3 months. And you're starting to see the you know, because everybody's on their best behavior and they send the representative at first, and then 3 months later you're like, who the hell are you? Who sent you? So let's say you're at that point where you're getting like a bouquet of red flags. As painful as it is more painful, and I'm speaking from personal experience, it is more painful to drag it out 3 years. Because after 3 years, that will destroy your mind of going back and forth, trying to figure it out, trying to save, trying to rescue, trying to make that person the build-a-boo that you think they can be.
Not only that, the highs and the lows, the successes and the failures becomes addictive.
It is. It's a trauma bond, especially if they're like narcissists and they're abusive. Like even if it's verbally, emotionally. And the thing is, Eric, is, you know, I've heard some psychologists talk about how when you grow up with narcissist parents that you really never get their approval and you have to earn their love, that's where we get caught up in that rescue mentality, as we're trying to rescue ourselves. But you know, that's the main thing is staying out of your fantasy and what could be. I know it's hard and I know we all want love, but is that person the one you love?
I think when people have been through multiple catastrophic or
especially at our age, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's time to look within. I mean, when I end a relationship, or when they end the relationship, or we end the relationship, I usually don't date anybody for a year or so, a year and a half, and I look at myself. I look within. I look at my interactions with that relationship. I look at interactions on all levels that I'm aware of. I have friends or close people that are close enough to tell me what their version of the truth is. You know, especially if there's a place I can grow, and then I heal, and then I go, okay, I'm ready to try this again.
God help us all.
And then before you know it, it's like the phone blows up, the emails blow up, the exes ring in, and it's like I get completely slammed with choices, and I'm like, oh my God. Okay, well, I've been here and I've done that and I've been here, you know, and really, I think I want depth. I want respect. I want kindness and love.
It changes as you get older.
Yeah, and a common ground of goals, you know, where she has her things that she does and I have my things that I do, but we also do things together.
Right.
And sometimes I join her on her things and help out, or she joins me on my things and helps out.
This just turned into the matchmaking show. Eric is single, ladies. So, you know, hey, if you do want to meet Eric, let me know. We'll filter him. We'll bring you on the show. We'll have some fun with it. We'll actually do some live matchmaking on the show with you, Eric. You put yourself out there. You know, I'm a matchmaker. I can't help it. Pam. Hey, Pam. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I love the background, too. I love this new set. But the thing is that, you know, you're going to get caught up in such a situation of trying to rescue that you will lose yourself. And it's super hard to come back from that. You know, it takes a long time to rebound. And, you know, it's so much easier to be a victim and blame others, because your ego really will hate for you to do that, to actually say, you know what, it's my own BS. I got to get real with my own BS. I got to get real with my own lies, the things we tell ourselves. That's when you have real change. That's when you actually can have a chance at finding real love, because I think if we keep attracting the same people over and over, to me, it's like God brings these people in our life. Like, are you still stupid? I mean, it's like the same person, different shell. You know. Okay. So what did Pam say? Yes. Okay. Oh, praying for your mom, Pam. Praying for my daughter Brianna, busybody Brianna, here on the weekdays. Her dad was found unconscious this morning, so we're prayers out to him and his family as well. Number 2, sometimes you have to make clear what you can and cannot accept. People that are abusive or narcissists or users love if you don't have boundaries. Oh, they love that. And they can spot that a mile away. They're looking for those people with low self-esteem. Oh, I smell it. Oh, low self-esteem. You're the winner. And you are not the winner, trust me. But ultimatums have really gotten a reputation for being like akin to bullying and manipulating and otherwise strong-arming someone into bending your will. Ambivalent partners often feel victimized when they're faced with an ultimatum. They don't want to be pressured to change the status quo, and to risk either stepping up or losing the relationship. But often that's precisely what needs to happen. Everybody should have a bottom line regarding what they want from their partner. If you communicate and they want something different than you and they ignore you, then you should leave. Honoring what's non-negotiable for you is the cornerstone of a healthy self-esteem. You got to be true to yourself. I mean, if you won't be, who will? You are literally teaching people how to treat you. And you just let them run over you. They're like, okay, well, she don't mind. There was, what was it? I heard or read or something. They were talking about why they were saying that when men actually cheat, it's because they think that their woman is never going to leave. Like they think they got it like that. They got them locked in, you know. A long married couple I know likes to tell a story about the first night that they were married. As they settled into bed that night, the man confided, as he had many times before, that he was having doubts and maybe they had married too quickly. God, that sucks.
That sucks.
This time, his new wife looked at him dead in the eye and said, "Why don't you get out right now then? And come back once you figured it out." That is seriously. I mean, that's going to make you feel worse. If it's not freely given, if they don't naturally just want to do it, who wants to be forced into a marriage? You know what I mean? That sucks. If it wasn't right the first time he had expressed ambivalence about the relationship, but it was the last, that night straightened me out, says the man, laughing. I mean, at the end of the day, you just got to put it in their life. You have to be confident enough to know that you deserve what you need and want in a relationship. So many times people just give it away
Mm-hmm.
as long as they're happy. But that's that part of building a boo and being a people pleaser. You're so focused on, you think you're trying to fix yourself or them, and you're trying to fix yourself through the process. But what's happening is you're losing yourself in the middle of it. Okay, number 3. Is there any hope at all, Eric? Is there any hope at all?
Well,
Because sometimes a person having trouble committing recognizes that they have a problem and they want to work toward change. They might feel that the issue is their anxiety, trauma, past relationship history, and if they're genuinely trying to figure it out, they might even have a reason for trying to hang on to the relationship somewhat longer. But there should be a limit on the time that you are willing to orient your life around someone else and your own needs are not being met. That's big. Like, I mean, if your needs are just flat out not being met, you really got to reanalyze the situation that you're in. Talking this through with a trusted third party like Eric or me, like a therapist, can be very helpful in this scenario. Yeah, I think. How long do you think? Like, what is a good time? Like, I mean, is there? You think there's a time, or you think it's just
depends on how ambivalent they are and
Yeah.
how they spend their energy in that ambivalence.
Yeah.
If you want monogamy and in their ambivalence, they're testing other vehicles out. Then
Yeah.
I wouldn't put up with that very long.
People,
Although I have in the past, but
we-
now
we've
I would
all-
not.
I think we've all shortchanged ourselves. I
Yeah.
think everybody. All right. So the thing is that commitment is not the finishing line. It is the starting gate, and that's what
Yes.
people need to understand. Do you want to stake your future on someone who you have to convince to be with you?
Oh.
Yuck. Nobody wants to do that. It's important to note that a healthy relationship, a healthy attached person can become anxiously attached if they spend too long with an avoidant partner. The worst case scenario is not a breakup. It's spending years of your life with someone incapable of being in a relationship with at all.
Yeah.
Oh, trust me, it's torture. You remember Robin Williams, rest in peace, said that the worst thing in the world is being with somebody and still feeling lonely.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. That depression is very real, especially if you suffer from depression. Don't push the envelope by getting with someone who's going to make you feel even more alone and more sad. Say your partner does not want to lose you, but instead but is not interested in changing the underlying dynamics of the relationship either. See, that's the catch, right? Because it's confusing. You're like, well, they don't want to lose me, but they're not doing anything to keep me either. And inaction is an action. Trust and believe that.
Yes, it is.
Then you'll find yourself tethered to someone incapable of real intimacy, who sulks in the face of any expectations, and who is incapable of prioritizing you and your happiness. You will sort of have the commitment, but not really closeness or
Right.
trust. This is the worst outcome. How your story is going to end depends on your tolerance level for speaking up for yourself and your willingness to risk it all for your own happiness. Don't let your partner leech away your time, self-esteem, and happiness. Our lives are determined by the quality of relationships. Hold out for the partner who has unequivocally put you at the top of their list. So, what do you think about that?
I think that if your partner doesn't put you at the top of the list, including themselves, because we have to put ourselves up there as well.
Yeah.
And if that's what you want,
Yeah.
then you deserve what you want.
Right.
And that may be a deal breaker right there.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
think the one thing you said earlier, Eric, was about the key part is, and we'll talk about this more when we get to the codependent topic. But so many people, literally, that old saying, "How do you get over somebody? You get under somebody new."
Right. Then they're done that.
And did it fix anything? Did it help?
No.
Or did it just make you more miserable that it wasn't the person you loved that you were with?
Yeah.
It does. Especially, I just think that a lot of times we play ourselves in that situation. But I think, like for me, in my last situation, when my relationship ended, I actually did something super not toxic for the first time in a long time. and I did stay single for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Like that was the first time in my whole life that I haven't been relationship to relationship. You know what I mean? I'm a relationship person, and I'm fine. So I'm gonna find a guy. No, just kidding. But I am cute. But I do find somebody easily, and like I don't stay single long. Seriously. So it's one of those things where, but I had to force myself to stay single. I had to force myself to say, you know what, that's toxic. You're not healed, because that's why when you're jumping from that relationship to the next one and you didn't heal, that relationship is going to be just as toxic. Because what you're doing when you're jumping relationship to like that, that is no different than drinking away the pain, doing drugs to get rid of the pain. It's all a fix and a crutch. And sometimes it's a relationship, sometimes it's sex, sometimes it's drugs or alcohol. But at the end of the day, it's a band-aid, and it's temporary. And you're going to have to rip it off, and the wound is still going to be there. You have to do the work. And I'm telling you all, the self-love journey is probably the hardest thing you will ever deal with in your life. It is the most rewarding thing that you will ever do in your life too, once you're on the other side of it. And you know, and it's interesting, Eric. I can tell how even now, after I've gone on my self-love journey and went out to the desert for a year and really worked on myself, I can tell even now there's things that happen that still trigger those old wounds that I thought were healed. And I don't know, is it that I guess you heal from them and you move on and you forgive and you make peace with the fact that that was something that hurt you. Mm-hmm. But I think that wound, depending on how deep it is, will always be there. But I think you just don't let it control you anymore.
Right. Not only that, even when you have a laceration or a cut on your arm and it heals, you have scar tissue under there.
Exactly.
Think of that as scar tissue.
I like
that.
But
think of scar tissue as one of the foundations of spiritual teachers.
Wow.
When we get to the point where we have scar tissue and you can rip all the Band-Aids and gauze paper wraps off, and it's scar tissue.
Yeah. And
you're at peace and you don't hold a grudge and you can share kindness and love even with the person that perpetrated, just at a safe distance where they can no longer hurt you, then you're probably ready to start teaching others to do that.
Wow, that's some real talk, Eric, because that is the truth. Because think about any situation, not even dealing with being hurt. I know a lot of people don't want to hear. Take me an entrepreneur, for example. Are you really going to listen to somebody who's been through the ups and downs of entrepreneur life? Or are you going to listen to somebody who had their daddy give them their first $1 million?
Or somebody that read the book.
You see what I'm saying?
Right,
like,
exactly.
I want to know like the pitfalls and the trials and the tribulations and the things that I can fall into, because it's really super hard to become an entrepreneur, just like it is hard to have the right relationship. Okay, so let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about why do people take selfies? We really want to know. So you guys are watching the Matchmaker Hotline here on Married Your questions. If you have any questions, Married.com will provide you a Facebook page of Edge Radio Network. Stay tuned. We'll be back in 2 minutes to answer your questions. And if
Between the ages of 0 and 5, a child's mind is very impressionable. Researchers call it the theta brainwave. This low frequency is the state of consciousness between the conscious and subconscious worlds. In this state, the mind is capable of deep and profound learning, healing, and growth. There is a subconscious loop that's created during these early years. Who you believe you are has been downloaded based on experiences that you have had. A bad experience could create fears and limitations. Do you love who you are? Do you believe in yourself? The reality is that you can't control your childhood. All you can do is interpret it. You can choose to see your good and your value. Try this experiment. Project forward. See yourself at 80 years old. Now you have lived a lifetime. What advice would you have for your younger self? What risks would you have taken? What relationships would you have avoided? Did you celebrate life? Did you allow yourself to feel, to be present? Your 80-year-old self would tell you to not live in fear, to have faith that things will work out, that all you have to do is persist until you succeed. Your 80-year-old self would tell you to stay healthy, to take care of your body. And it would ultimately tell you to share your gifts with the world.
Are you a small business owner concerned about the downturn in the economy? Top business leaders like Mattress Mac and Warren Buffett will tell you that now is the time to promote your business more than ever. People need your services. Your business needs an edge. Learn about special advertising packages for small businesses right here on Edge Radio. Find out more, give us a call at 281-744-0446. That's 281-744-0446. Edge, because truth still matters.
Welcome back into Marinate Mondays. It's your girl, matchmaker, comedian Amber Neal, with my co-host Eric Davis in the building. Shaman Eric Davis. So Eric, tell us a little bit about what a shaman is for those that are just tuning in.
So if you go back to the origination of the word in Siberia, it means one who sees or one who knows.
Okay.
And I would boil that down to somebody who is very in touch with their intuitive abilities and powers. And we all have them, but we all develop something. We all have God-given talents that are running rampant. And as a shaman, it's more or less our intuition and our ability to bring balance, peace, and harmony and healing into the lives of others.
You know, when Jesus was on the earth, when he left, one of the instructions he gave his disciples to go out and heal the nations. And, you know, do we have those powers of healing?
Everybody has them. Not everybody utilizes. And you don't have to believe to learn how to use them.
Interesting.
I've had people come in and want to debunk the type of work, and they became very powerful healers in the process.
I love that. You go in like as a non-believer and you come out as a healer. I love that.
It happens. It happened consistently for a while.
I think there's like key things that are indications, because, you know, I'm sure one day you had to discover it for yourself, right?
Right.
And then, but what were some of the signs along the way that you were super intuitive? How did you know you got to that point of being a healer and really working with people on the spiritual level?
So I was around 2.5 or 3, and I started finishing sentences for adults in the room.
Wow.
And telling them, "Oh, it's over here," before the words came out of their mouth.
Dang.
Of asking.
Mm-hmm.
And it caught a little attention with my parents and friends of theirs, and my parents kind of taught me to keep my mouth shut and not let the wolf out of the bag. And
they're gonna take you away, Eric.
Right. And so I learned to mask it and hide it for the most part. But there were people that could just look like we could make eye contact and they could tell.
Yeah.
They knew.
Yeah. Eric, man, y'all don't have to take his word for it. Eric is the real deal, and he's had articles written up on him in Houston Chronicle, and they've followed him, and yeah. So there's some people who might need your help right now, Eric. We'll talk about that. But okay, so we're going over an article today in Psychology Today. I love that Psychology Today. There's so much interesting articles in here. But why do people take selfies? And past research links narcissism to taking selfies, but is there more to it? So basically, the article says, is taking selfies narcissistic? The answer to that question is very complicated. Past research found significant but relatively small links between selfies and narcissism. Other research has found no substantial link. It's kind of like they tell you when you're a kid, when your kids are young, do this for your kids, and then 20 years later you'll find out, don't do that for your kids. And Atkins diet, and he dropped dead of a heart attack. So I mean, I don't know. And now they've got the keto, which is the Atkins diet. So I don't know. And it basically is saying that still no other research has shown a stronger link for men than women, and that this inconsistency in research results maybe because not all selfies are equal.
Right.
This inconsistency shows that research has shown that narcissistic individuals take more solo selfies but fewer selfies that feature other people. And while researchers have focused on a lot on how the frequency of taking selfies relates to people's personality, a few studies have really examined why people take selfies to begin with. New research by Eric Kurtova and colleagues recently published in the Journal of Media Psychology examined these issues. They say that narcissism is defined as a grandiose perception of the self with a desire to be admired and a lack of empathy for others. That's the key part to the narcissist part. We all want to have confidence, but when you have no empathy for others, that's when you're dealing with a sociopath. Okay, personality questionnaires that measure narcissism can divide the traits into multiple components. Number one, there's a leadership/authority feeling that one is important and should be in charge of other people. 2, entitlement and exploitiveness, feeling that one is deserving of special privilege and being willing to take advantage of others. And 3, grandiose exhibitionism, the desire to show off and be the center of attention. You know, we talk about this a lot, is the ego. We talk about how the ego is the death of all relationships. Your ego is I call it your imaginary friend that kind of protects your heart from all the cruel world out here. But the way you describe the ego, you were saying that that's our reflection of our, how did you say that, Eric?
It's how we perceive ourselves. It's how we see ourselves. It's how we feel we show up, or how we want to show up in the eyes of others.
You know, I saw this really cute, I don't remember, Dateline or one of those news shows, and they were saying how they basically had an artist come in, and they would basically, like, you would sit there, I would sit there, and they would sketch us, right? And then they would based off of our description of ourselves. So the artist actually didn't see the person. I would have to describe me, and they would sketch me. Then they would have a total stranger come in and describe me to the artist, and the pictures were mind-blowingly different. I mean, like, unbelievable. And so I think a lot of that is how we see ourselves. It is those little things. It could be like a little bitty bump on our face, or we have a cowlick, or we have something that's off, or you know what I mean? And we are like, oh my God, everybody can tell, they can see that, they notice that. But in fact, that's your own thing. Like, most of the time people don't even notice the little things that we are sitting there obsessing about. In the study, 276 college students completed a survey consisting of questionnaires measuring narcissism. Then they estimated how many selfies that they took in the past week, both alone and with other people in the picture. Respondents also gave an open-ended question, were given an open-ended question in which they listed what motivates them to take the selfie. The results show that in one particular aspect of narcissism, grandiose exhibitionism was the only personality trait linked to self-taking and solo taking in particular. Exhibition was not related to taking selfies that included other people. However, even though this is a correlation was statistically significant, it was not that large. So grandiose exhibition is the only one small factor that makes people more prone to taking solo selfies. The research also coded the open-ended responses about people's selfies taking motives into different categories and calculated the percent of respondents who listed each type of motive. So they're saying the narcissist, for example, said, quote, I think I'm attractive and I have no problem sharing that. So it's like 30% of the people. Sharing and connecting. So for 23% of the people, they said, I want to share my experiences with my friends. And it's interesting because there's couples that fight over taking pictures together. Should we really, because they always say that it's better to keep your love life private, and then that's like less you have to clean up. But they also say that like, but there are people like this that literally it's not about being precocious or trying to put it in people's faces that you're in a relationship as much as I just want to share it with my friends. And, you know, but other people that are more private don't understand that. Like, why do you have to share everything, you know? And then this one said for 22% said that they want to take selfies for functional use, which is I am a sponsored fitness athlete. It's my job. 15% said self-esteem boosting, for example, so that I can feel better about myself. I don't get that though. Like, what's the difference between looking in the mirror and taking a selfie? Oh, I know, filters. Okay. But then how do you feel better about yourself if it's filters? Like, seriously. And that's what cracks me up is these girls go on all these dating profiles and they put all these filters on themselves. Even guys do it. And then they meet the person in real life and they go to meet for a drink at the bar and they walk right past them. They're like, I didn't even see them. Like, I'm here. I'm at the bar. Where are you? Oh, okay. They're gonna find out, dude. Like, they're gonna find out. You might as well be real. Quit doing the fake, the catfishing and the fake representative. They're gonna find out who you are. And you know what? Here's the thing, though, guys. That's why there's chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. You don't have to change who you are for anyone. I promise you. Huh?
Neapolitan.
Neapolitan. That's another kind of relationship, Eric.
Oh.
But I'm just saying, like, you don't have to become something or someone else to attract your right mate. The right mate will see you and go, that is my thing right there. Memory. So 5% said that they just do it to document memories. I know that I'm really dependent on social media for all my pictures. Like, I guess you still have them on the cloud, but before the cloud, it was like social media, everything in the around 2010, everything was uploaded and everything was saved. Like, it has all your memories, it's chronicled. I like that part of it too. And then conformity, for example, 3% said it's what young people do. So it's just a friend I follow. Followers, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so as you can see from the list above, that narcissistic motives were the most common, but sharing and connecting and functional came in second and third. And so almost a third of respondents indicated narcissist reasons for posting selfies. And that still means that 70% listed other reasons. So if 30% of respondents had narcissistic motives for posting selfies, does that mean that other young adults are narcissistic? Given that these motives were not associated with the respondents' level of narcissism, it suggests something else might be going on. They point out that young adults tend to be more focused on themselves, but not necessarily being more narcissistic. And I think that is the culture of millennials. It's very it's about self. And then, which is, it's good. I mean, you don't want to be codependent. You do want to have your own self thing going on. but to a detriment when it comes to dating, because now a lot of millennials have this attitude. It's cool to not catch feelings. It's cool just to do me. Like, I'll do me, you do you, and that's cute in your 20s. That's all I'm gonna say. Wait till in your 30s, you're gonna change your mind a little bit, and in your 40s, you're gonna be like, "What the hell was I thinking?" Watch, you'll see. You remember this show? You're like, Amber told me that was gonna happen. But basically, it just the research suggests that self-centered motives for taking selfies are common, but not necessarily strong enough to link that to narcissism. And narcissism connection to selfie taking is a small part of a larger picture. So that's pretty good. What do you think, Eric? You like to take selfies?
Sometimes I like to document stuff, and I remember when I came back from summer camp, my parents always said, "You brought 12 rolls of film back, and you're not in one picture."
You're dating your age.
I didn't say how long ago summer camp
rolls
was.
of film back.
Oh, yeah, I guess I dated my age. Oops, oh, I don't care.
No,
I ain't scared of that.
I am glad. My birthday's tomorrow. Again, Cash App, $ Matchmaker Amber.
She's turning 28.
I am turning 28 again and again and again.
From now on.
But you know what? As much as I'm not gonna say it sucks to get older, because it's such a blessing to make it to this age. So many people don't. I love this age, honestly. Like, I feel so comfortable in my skin. I know who I am now. I know what I'm trying to do. My mission is clear. So much of your 20s, you're trying to learn yourself, find yourself, invent yourself, and figure it out. You know, and that's the fun part. That's why I recommend, if you can avoid having kids in your 20s, avoid it. Save that for your 30s. You know what I mean? Enjoy your 20s. You'll never get that back again. I had my kids at 21 and 25, and although it was so hard and I never really had a youth per se, now my kids are 21 and 25, and it's like, woohoo, I'm free as a bird. You know, and I'm still young enough to do it. But you know, shout out to my amazing kids. But anyway, all right, so this next article we're going to discuss is in She Said. If you cannot check off these things, it is definitely not real love. Y'all might want to sit down for this one, because we're about to keep it real right here. Okay. Being in love with someone is not the same as really loving them. When you say, what's the difference?
Worlds apart.
What do you think the difference is to you?
I think when you love someone, you look out for their greatest interest.
Yeah.
You look out for what is best for them. You inspire them to make educated choices, but you don't tell them what to do.
Yeah.
You don't tell them what they can and can't do. You just support their choices, and you love them for who they are, where they are, how they are, provided it doesn't cross that line of self-love where they're hurting you or abusing you.
Right.
Loving somebody is wanting the best for them, even if it means they leave your life.
I remember Eric telling me that when I was dealing with, in a past relationship I was really struggling to let go of. He said, you know, loving this person means loving them, even if that means they're not with you. And I'm like, oh hell no, it doesn't.
but it does. And I'll be honest.
He's right.
A couple of my exes came back and said, well, you didn't fight for me. You just said, oh, well, if that's where you want to be, then I wish you the best life has to offer. I'm not going to try to tell you you can't have what you said you want.
But see, that makes me wonder what kind of toxic patterns that they have. They want people fighting over them.
Exactly. Well, I was the codependent at that time. And not that we don't revisit that, but reading a few books and reflection of our years of dating and friendships, you start realizing where you're codependent, and you realize that doesn't feel good, and that's not healthy, and you want to be not codependent.
You really don't.
Or codependent no more.
Codependent no more. That's a new shirt. But let's say that you're dating someone new and it's going great, but when you're not together, you're counting the minutes until you can see them again, and every time your phone rings, you're hoping that it's them. You're thinking about their smile and how it's so unique, and you know, you just feel warm and fuzzy all over again, and you know how they're so adorable. You're so infatuation, and the sex is amazing.
But I want to say that amazing sex, if you can stay around long enough to where you have a deep emotional connection, even if it's not lifelong, it doesn't have to be lifelong, but where you have a deep emotional connection, and you can talk for hours and days, and and go do things together,
Yes.
that amazing sex goes off the charts. Amazing isn't even attractive
It's true.
anymore.
Y'all, Trey Songz tried to tell y'all sex is not better than love. It's not. And when you get to that, and that's what we're going to talk about here, because there's levels to this in love that you have to go through before you have the deepest, realest love. And some of the stuff we're going to talk about right now might actually shock you. But once you're past, sex is amazing. You're infatuated, and that's why we always say that lust and love look so much alike.
Loved
you.
I loved you.
I love to lust you down. But that's what it really is. It's like that lust and love look a lot alike. But love, when you actually look at what love is compared to what lust is, you're going to realize one is coming from your spirit and one is coming from your ego. And it's a hardcore difference. And you'll know by their actions.
When you look at a person and you think, wow, what can I do to improve the quality of their life today?
That's love.
That's love, without hurting myself, of course.
Of course, yes.
Since we're wiggling around codependence some today, I'm going to throw that caveat. Without hurting myself or without ruining my life.
Exactly.
That's love. When you think, how can I get that person to do what I want? How can I contain that person? How can I keep that person? How can I trap that person? How can I? That's manipulation, and that's lust.
That's lust. Absolutely.
Love goes forever.
Yeah.
Even if you're not romantically attracted to each other anymore, once you love somebody, you always love them.
That's so true. It really is. But once you're past that part where the sex is amazing, you're tempted to say those three little words, right?
I love you. I love you.
Who was telling me that they've had guys, or they've heard of guys, like they'll be in the heat of the moment and they'll like, oh, I love you, and they're in the middle of sex, and then they'll have to come back and be like, about that, I didn't really mean that part yet. It's kind of like, my bad, I love your booty, I don't love your heart yet. But when you're tempted to say those three little words, are you really sure? And how do you know? What does I love you mean anyway, right? Some people start throwing out I love you early on in a relationship, and while others hold off saying it until the other person says it, and they're ready to commit on like a more serious level, or just feels right. So in some way, in some effable way, we probably have all said I love you early on to someone and thought later, in fact, we probably didn't really mean it. And maybe we were stingy with an I love you we should have said sooner because we never got the chance to say it later. Regret is, boy, they say fear is the worst emotion. I think regret is like regretting something. But here's the thing about being in love with someone that's very different from actually loving them. Saying I love you early on in a relationship might really mean I'm infatuated with you and I love having sex with you, but I've not seen you at your worst. And that's what you got to really see. You got to see the good, the bad, and the ugly.
All three. Before
you can actually really say you love someone and really mean it. And maybe once you get to that point, you realize that maybe it's actually a little bit different than love in what I'm saying. And I love you early on in a relationship might mean that you just you haven't seen them at their worst and ugliest and annoying, and even though being with them is super special, there's always a bag of LOLs. I still care deeply about you. So how do you know when it's the real thing? And that's what people want to know. How do you know when it's the real thing? Here are the 4 stages every relationship has to go through before you can truly, madly, deeply love someone. And some of these, this is, we're going to talk about where most people don't get through that part, okay? So the first part is, like we talked about, Eric, the infatuation. Man, when they're hot and the sex is great and they're saying everything right and they're feeding your ego. Nasty, Eric, so nasty. But this is the fun part, whether you want to call it infatuation or lust, but the more scientific term is limerence. This first stage of falling for someone is the part that people confuse with love. When the infatuation phase, and it always does, many people panic, worrying that, I've fallen out of love and I won't be able to get that back. But psychotherapist Dorothy Tenev, who first named this intense, often all-consuming feeling, limerence, says it's normal for it to go away sometime between a year and 3 years, and that it's not a sign that your relationship has gone bad, but in fact it's just the opposite. Your relationship cannot really move forward until you have cleared this phase. Interesting,
I agree
right?
with that. 100%.
And I think that's where people break up. So many people are addicted to falling in love.
Yep.
It's like they want that high and that rush, just like so many people want the wedding, but they don't want the marriage.
Right.
It's like they like the party and the celebration, but the work it takes to actually make it work, they're not really cut out or interested in that, right? And while some people prize infatuation way too highly, seeking it out over and over and over again and throwing away promising relationships as soon as it fades, others go too far the other way, poo-pooing on the importance of infatuation, as if it doesn't mean anything, because it's going to go away anyway. But that's wrong too. The limerence stage is important. All those biochemical responses that make you feel so crazy about your new partner will help you bond together for the rough times ahead. If you can both look back on these days and when you did stay in bed all day and had sex all day and you couldn't get enough of each other, it gives you a strong foundation for a future. Do you really want to be with someone who never made you smile so much that your face hurts at the end of the day? Never mind sitting down after all those marathon sex sessions. Ouch. So that stage is important. You don't look at it either way, in a wrong way.
Right.
Infatuation is important because it'll help you for the long haul. But if you think it's going to maintain your relationship, or infatuation will maintain, have you had to counsel couples that you've dealt with this kind of phase? We got 1 minute.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how disillusionment is the second phase of love that you must go through before you can actually say you have the real thing. You guys are watching the Matchmaker Hotline? Yeah, and go deeper.
You got to go deeper. You got to go through disillusionment to go deeper.
Amen.
And when you go deeper, the magic begins.
Oh my God, that's when it really gets fun. We're going to talk about that when we get back. You guys are listening to Edge Radio here on the Matchmaker Hotline. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
We work our whole lives to support our families. With one accident or illness, it can all be gone in an instant. Now there's a smart, affordable way to protect your family. Go to findhealthbenefits.com and discover low-cost life insurance for as little as $2 per month. Add to that a tax-deferred annuity that can help you protect your assets and grow your money for retirement. Learn more. Go to findhealthbenefits.com or call 877-235-6094. A critical illness can strike without warning and wipe out your life savings. In fact, it's the #1 reason for bankruptcy. Find Health Benefits offers an affordable solution. Get up to $50,000 if you get cancer, stroke, or a heart attack, giving you the peace of mind to focus on getting better while the plan helps you to pay your bills and medical expenses. Learn more. Go to findhealthbenefits.com or call 877-235-6094. 66% of seniors spend more time shopping for cable TV than Medicare plans. Most say because it's just too confusing. Laws change every year. The wrong plan could cost you thousands and prevent you from seeing the doctors you want. Introducing FindHealthBenefits.com. Save time, save money, see specialists without referrals. Go to FindHealthBenefits.com or call 877-235-6094 for this informative brochure.
Society is on the edge. Let's bring them back. Edge Radio. Because truth still matters. People stop talking to each other. Society is on the edge. Let's bring them back. Edge Radio, because truth still matters.
Hey guys, welcome back into Married Date Mondays. It's your girl, Matchmaker comedian Amber Neal. I'm here with my co-host Shaman Eric Davis in the building, and we were just talking about. Okay, so this is like totally off subject, but have you guys ever heard of a thing called fans only? Is that the right name? Fans only fans? You ever heard of that? Let me know if you've heard about that, and have you done it, and what's been your experience? Because apparently this is something that couples can do if they're on the little freaky side. Let me know.
Maybe a lot freaky side.
Like super freaky. But apparently you can get paid to be freaky on this. I don't know. But here's the thing, guys. Our hotline is going to be up soon. We just moved to a new studio. As you can see, our beautiful new studio. If you have a question, I've got the Facebook page open here where I can actually take your questions here on the Edge Radio Network. All right, so let's get back into this. So we're talking about how to know if it's not love. And the one thing that we are discussing today is how there's 4 stages of a relationship that you have to go through. There's no circumventing, there's no shortcut. Because this next part is where a lot of couples fall apart and they don't make it through it. So the first part, in case you're just tuning in, we were talking about how people are infatuated, how the infatuated, they expect the infatuation to keep it around long enough. But the next phase is really the most important. It is the disillusionment part. As infatuation wears off, real life rears its ugly head. And you start to notice that Mr. Wonderful or Miss Wonderful, your new partner, is about to tell you about his hard day, but maybe they never ask about yours. You wonder if he ever really learned how to properly wash a dish, why he spends every Saturday drinking beer with his friends. Turns out you don't agree on everything after all. And he is not actually that cute. This happened to me before, where once the infatuation wears off, and I'm looking at him like, you're just
Like beer goggles?
beer goggles, rose-colored glasses. I'm like, you're not as cute as I thought you were. But that cuteness starts wearing off, and it turns out that when you wake up in the morning, you wonder if all the things that you loved about this person were merely projections. If you saw what you wanted to see, and now the scales are falling from your eyes, and your partner's true character is revealed. Now, there's a difference between people sending their representative, which is totally fake from the beginning. Nothing about them is real. Like they say they're single and they're not, or they say they're into something and they're not. And they're, even I've seen one girl who claimed she was a religion she wasn't, just to try to attack the guy. Like, I mean, the thirst is real. But you saw what you wanted to see, and now things are falling off, and your partner's true character is revealed. So, but there's a difference between being someone sending the representative and the infatuation wearing off. Big difference. This is when a lot of couples actually throw in the towel when they get to this disillusionment phase. What have you seen with that, Eric?
Well, when the infatuation wears off, the endorphins don't crank it quite as high. And then people start becoming disillusioned. Stop saying in their mind, oh, well, that's okay, and that's okay. And maybe be unconditional in their love. And they become more critical.
Wow.
And when they do that, the other person, it changes the vibration within the dynamics of the energy.
Yeah.
Instead of putting in love, they're putting in fear. There are only two emotions in the world.
Right.
Emotional bases. Fear and love. And if it's not love, it's fear. So when you go from unconditionally loving everything about a person and saying, yeah, they left the cap off the toothpaste, and yeah, they left their coffee cup on the counter with coffee in it, and they did this, and instead of being happy to cap that and put it down and to wash the cup for them or to leave it for them to do later, there's resentment. With resentment, there's destruction of a relationship. Even if you don't say a word, the energy is felt. I believe almost everybody watching or listening has ever walked into a room and felt energy of somebody or the whole room or different people. When you meet somebody, you feel positive or negative, or you feel that energy. And a relationship has the same dynamics. You feel that cynicism, the criticism, or the resentment. And resentment destroys really, really.
It really does.
Yeah.
It's like a cancer. It just kind of eats away at your whole relationship. And this really is when a lot of couples throw in the towel, and they want to feel the same way that they've been feeling, and that they felt in the beginning. But those warm feelings have disappeared.
And that happens, and that's the thing. Part of our issue with people not catching feelings nowadays is they want to just keep going from
the high.
From mountaintop to mountaintop, and it's just a high, but it's a false illusion.
Yeah.
There's no depth. It's a drug.
It's true, because they want to know, how do I get these feelings back? And as good as it felt to fall in love, that's how bad it feels to fall out of love, or at least to believe that that's what's happening. And it's actually not just your imagination. The chemicals that flood your brain when you're falling in love, for more accurately, limerence, actually stimulate some of the same parts of your brain that opiate drugs like heroin do as well. So really, the disillusionment phase is not completely unlike being a junkie in withdrawal.
Absolutely.
That's kind of deep. That is interesting.
And in all actuality, it is a drug.
It really
It
is.
really
Love
is
is
a drug.
such a drug. It is like the worst.
And it's easy to fall in love. It's not always easy to fall out of love.
And that's the thing. It's easier to fall into less masked as love. Like, it looks like love, but it's really lust.
Right.
And that's the thing. When you really look at what love is not. Love doesn't hold records of wrongdoings, and love is patient, and it is kind, and it's not easily angered, and it is always hoping and persevering and always believing in things. It's not, like you said, it's not operating out of that fear energy. Okay, so those are the two phases right now. And if you've stuck with this through this, you understand that if you made it through the infatuation stage, You have negotiated through the disillusionment phase of realizing, hey, this person is not as perfect as I projected or thought that they were, because we're all human. And I think sometimes it's not even a false, like people saying they're representatives. I think it's much as people trying to put their best foot forward, and people also trying to get over their own toxic behavior. So, but that's why it's so important for you to heal until you get into the next one. Now, the next phase of the relationship, and these are all 4 phases you have to go through before you can actually classify this as love. Otherwise, it's really not true love. The next phase is the negotiation. So you've made it through the infatuation. You've made it through the disillusionment of finding out who they really are. Now it's time to negotiate. What do you really want? And that is super important, because after the infatuation has worn off and disillusionment sets in, that's when couples engage what well-known therapist and author Harville Hendricks calls the power struggle. In this classic relationship advice book, Getting the Love You Want, Hendricks puts forth a theory that we don't really enter into relationships in order to take care of each other. What we really do is to heal our own hearts. So while we may say that we love our partner and want to make them happy, what we're really doing is trying desperately to make sure that we're making ourselves happy. According to Hendricks, at some point, the wounded child inside of us decides they've been good long enough and enough to endure themselves to the romantic partner, and will now start making demands. That's so funny, because it's interesting. I think that's right around 3 months.
It is right at 3 months, 2.5 to 3.5 months. Say 3. It's almost always at right around 3 months.
That's when the demands start coming in, and that's when you really start seeing who you're with. It's so interesting, because I like the way you said about the inner child. It says, I've been good long enough, and damn it, it's time to make my demands. This is the make or break time for relationships. If you've been able to survive past the disillusionment phase, can you still find a way to see each other for who you really are, be honest about what you need from them in each other, and learn to meet those needs? Did anybody see The Notebook?
Oh, I love that show.
But what was the thing? Their relationship, they were more the opposites attract, right? But their love was so deep that they're like, I would rather fight with you than be happy with someone else the rest of my life. Because when you have that level of real love, so after this time, and you're in that make it or break it phase, that is why so many people get divorced, is because they can't get past the disillusionment phase to get into the negotiation. And that's why, I've said this before, I don't care what people think, marriage is a business. And you've got to understand it is a negotiation. It is what you want and what you need out of it. But I think this is why so many people get divorced, because they're so used to the infatuation phase that they can't get through that disillusionment phase to get to the negotiation.
Absolutely.
And it's not easy. I mean, most couples honestly don't manage it. That's why the divorce rate is so high. And that's what we're trying to do at Maridate, is we are trying to cure the divorce rate by giving you these tools and information that can actually help you stay in a healthy romantic love. But it's not easy to manage, and that is why so many people get divorced. They imagine that if they just had the right partner, that a different partner, that they wouldn't have to go through this phase. And it is true that not every couple should stay together. Sometimes getting a divorce is the answer. And that takes a lot for me to say that, because I am really trying to cure the divorce rate with what my mission in life is. But if you have a strong connection that goes back to your falling in love days of limerence and infatuation, it may be worth staying the course. This is when couples therapy is a must for most people. If you want to stay together and not just together, but happily together, you'll have to wade through the muck for a while in order to get there. What do you say, Eric?
Oh, I agree 100%. If you really want to find authentic genuine happiness through love with depth,
Yeah.
you have to get through that stage.
Yeah.
And it's there for everybody. You can run and hide from it and put it off all you want, but it will grow and it will fester and it'll rear its ugly head.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you've managed to make it through the infatuation, dissolution, and negotiation, you're still together, then hey, you've cracked the code. That's the code, you guys. You really do love each other. And that kind of love is a verb, not a noun. Something you actively choose to do each day and show each other in actions as well as words. Social worker and men's health expert Jed Diamond, PhD, says nothing can compare to the power of real love. And so there's nothing more satisfying than being with a partner who sees you and loves you for who you are. And I think that's the worst thing, is trying to be in a relationship where you don't feel comfortable. You can't let your guard down. You feel like you're always on eggshells. Like that's the worst. It's a fear-based relationship. And they understand that your hurtful actions are not because you're mean, and unloving, but because you have been wounded in the past, and the past still lives with you. As we better understand and accept our new partner, we can learn to love ourselves even more deeply. So next time you're about to utter those 3 little words, I love you, to a new romantic partner, don't hold back. Next time, go ahead and say them, but just know that you may have a long, bumpy road ahead of you before they really and are truly, really love.
Yes. I agree.
If you guys have questions, you guys can ask questions here. I've got the hotline up here on the Matchmaker Hotline, on Edge Radio Network Facebook page, Edge Radio Network Facebook page. I'm taking questions there. We're in our new beautiful studio, as you can see, and our hotline will be up soon. But if you have any questions about anything we've talked about today, feel free to go ahead and write in. We'll be glad to get you on air, your question on air. And if we pick your question, we will send you out a travel certificate courtesy of Maridate.com. Let's see, how are we doing on time? Okay, cool. So let's go over this last article, Eric. This is in shesaid.com. 16 signs that you might be a codependent person, which all goes back to before you even try to get into a healthy relationship, you have to be healthy first. Codependent.
Absolutely.
Codependent is it's a word that we all depend on each other from time to time, but there's a difference between healthy dependence and codependence. And there are certain words that get thrown around a lot, but which, when you stop and ask what do they really mean, most people don't really seem to know. Codependence is one of those words. Yes. And they're so codependent, they say, about our parents when they start squabbling again over some small thing. A friend who can't seem to stay broken up with her boyfriend, her cheating boyfriend, is labeled codependent, as the friend who keeps bringing booze home to her alcoholic husband and refusing to admit he has a problem. But the word codependent really is a catch-all for anyone who is in an unhealthy relationship. As is codepending on someone necessarily a bad thing, is it?
I think interdependence is important.
Yes.
Where you have some level of dependence upon each other, or you're able to, not that you have to. But codependent is more where you can't live without that person in your mind.
Yeah.
You feel like you can't live without them.
Right. And you're obsessed with them.
Yeah.
And so basically, depending on someone is okay, but there's nothing inherently wrong with being a needy person, but we all use each other to get our needs met. And how else are you supposed to do it? People ask. So we talk about this article here, and basically the question you have to ask yourself is, could codependence be the cause of your unhappiness? Recognizing is the first steps toward recovery. And here are 16 signs that you could be a codependent person. Number 1, you seem to have a knack for choosing the wrong person. How many times I can't even tell you how many times people have come to me as a matchmaker and they're like, my picker's broken. I keep picking the same person over and over and over and again. And it's really because you have that lack for picking the wrong person. And do you always fall for the fixer-uppers, the build-a-boos? Do you always fall for them? You know the ones, the chronically underemployed, the alcoholics, the ones with untreated depression. Codependent people love a project, love to build a boo, love it. They're drawn to needy partners they think they can fix and who seem likely to depend on them. Have you dealt with that as well? I'm sure.
A lot of people
choosing the wrong person. I think we've all chosen the wrong person. Yeah, and I think that's it's like a pattern. That's why at some point, like you were saying earlier, you got to get to your truth and stop believing your own BS and start realizing if I keep getting the same person in a different package, it's me.
I'm the common
It's you. You are the common denominator. And number 2, do you struggle with low self-esteem? Because people who don't feel good about themselves often feel like no one will ever love them unless they make themselves indispensable. To make up for their low self-esteem, they give too much, and they never stop to think and ask, have my needs been met as well? And that shit goes back to the boundaries. Mm-hmm. You've got to set the boundaries. Somebody that is going to mistreat you or use you is going to recognize that you have low self-esteem and that you have no boundaries, and they're going to use you and throw you away. So if you struggle with low self-esteem, that's why the self-love journey is so important. Until you get on that, you don't even need to be trying to be in a relationship. Mm-hmm. You need to stay single until you are ready. In your experience, Eric, as far as, when you're healing, do you feel like, there's a saying that it takes half of the time that you were with somebody to get over them. Do you feel like that's true? Or is that just
in many cases, I feel like that's true. Some cases it takes longer.
Yeah.
And in some cases it doesn't take that long. I think the more abuse in the relationship and the more trauma bonding that took place, the longer it takes to get over them. Yeah. In some cases.
For sure. It does. And I think that's why you got to be very careful when you do leave an abusive situation. It's very important you go no contact. You cannot have contact with someone who's abused you. Number 3, you think about your partner all the time. These are signs that you might be codependent. Do you think about your partner all the time to an unhealthy point where, it's normal to think about your partner through the day. But if you literally are unable to concentrate on anything else because you're obsessed with what they're doing, you're reading your text messages, you're wondering if they'll call, and mentally replaying your last interaction, that's not healthy. Seriously, that is a distraction. If anything that is coming between you and your God-given mission and destiny in life, it is preventing you from doing what you're supposed to do, that is a distraction. But the thing is that you're so dependent upon them to validate you, and you're trying to get that externally, that you're thinking about them all the time. But you got to do the work. There's no way. That's the thing. I try to tell people that, especially when it comes to date coaching, you have to do the work. There's no way to circumvent it. You have to let it burn. You have to go through the pain. You have to go through all the things and get real with yourself. Number 4, when your partner is upset, you're even more so. If something isn't going right with your partner, it drives you to absolute distraction. These are signs you might be codependent. He may only be mildly upset, but you're absolutely beside yourself, discussing your partner's problem with your friends and your family as if it were your problem. There's a difference between caring about your partner's feelings and taking them on yourself. What do you think?
Oh, I agree 100%. But I feel like, it's good to have compassion for what they're going through.
Yeah.
And if they don't know how to handle it and they're looking for feedback, maybe visiting with some of your close peers is a positive thing. But if it's a regular, everyday thing or every weekly thing, then there's probably codependence and drama and drama and all kinds of stuff. And that's probably toxic. It's hard to live in that vibration consistently and not be toxic.
I don't think it's healthy for anybody to, what a gift that we get to live this life. You know, what a blessing it is to actually get to have the human experience. How sad is it that you literally throw that away and you're missing all of the beauty in nature and in life and opportunities and hobbies and crafts and careers and things that you could go after and things to improve this planet and help other people, but you're so distracted from this toxic relationship that you never you never come into your calling. You never go to your best life. And the one question I ask myself when I'm in a relationship is this God's best for me? And if you can't really say that without going, well,
maybe.
I don't know. He's still got to show
Let me think about
me.
it.
People do what they want to do, and people do what you let them. So at the end of the day, if this person is not treating you right, they don't want to. All right, man, we are just having a fast show today, Eric. So we're going to take a quick break real quick. We're going to come back and finish talking about 10 more things that are signs that you might be a codependent person. You guys are listening to Edge Radio here on the Matchmaker Hotline, and we'll be back in about 2 minutes.
The Natural Nation Network is really about taking control of your health physically, spiritually, emotionally, even intellectually, because there's so much out there in misinformation. There's a lot of people now that are suffering from all sorts of diseases that they really wouldn't have to suffer for if they had better information. And that's what we're here to do. Provide information that can save lives.
The mind and the body are totally connected.
Health can be really serious, and you know, sometimes we just have to lighten it up a little bit while we're still providing substantive information. And you know, my sort of mantra on the salsa dance floor is kind of similar. You know, I tell somebody, if you make a mistake twice, it becomes a move. Okay?
Tune into Natural Nation every Tuesday at 11 a.m.
This is former Rocket Robert Reed.
This is Mel Jewell of Athletes United.
And we want to talk to you of our new program and podcast. We're talking about former athletes who are doing a lot of things in the community.
Various athletes in various sports. Swimming, track, soccer, football, baseball, you name it.
Former and current athletes here in the greater Houston area.
All promoting wellness, health. All promoting that which makes us all better.
Of Edge Radio, truth still matters.
Welcome back into Marinate Mondays. It's your girl, Matchmaker comedian Amber Neal, and I am here today with my co-host, with the mostest, Shaman Eric Davis. Welcome back into the show. So, in case you guys missed it, man, we had a really good show. I would go back to Edge Radio Network and rewatch the whole show because we talked about 4 stages that you really have to go through. I guess it's technically 3. With infatuation and disillusionment and negotiations before you can actually call it real love. But like Eric was saying, man, if you can get through all those, you remember that kind of love that you saw in the movie The Notebook? It's because they went through all those stages, and that's why they stayed together till they died together. One can only hope, right? But right now, we want to help you get a little bit more healthy so that you can attract those healthy partners. So we talked about a few signs that you might be codependent. And while we do depend on each other for certain things, codependence will be a huge distraction. It will keep you from living your best life. It will keep you in a yucky state of mind. And you cannot attract positive things when if you're not in an attitude of gratitude.
Amen.
You can't. It's just law of attraction. You have to be in a positive attitude of gratitude before you can actually attract more positive things. You stay in a negative fear-based energy, that's what you're going to bring more of, right? Fear is not real, guys. 90% of the things we fear never even happen. So you can let fear run your life if you want to, but you know what? The only emotion that's stronger than fear is regret. So, I've seen too many people don't live their best life. They play themselves, they sell themselves short, and then they're 70 going, I never had the career I wanted. I didn't marry the woman I wanted. I was so worried about money. And now that you're alone, you don't care about the things that really matter, and that's who you loved. Okay, so the fifth thing that might mean you are codependent is that you don't have a lot of interest outside of your relationship. When you started dating your partner, everything else just kind of got pushed to the side, and your friends and your hobbies and everything that, really like your weekly girls' night out, and they're not as important as your relationship. And here's the part that is where you're wrong. You should not cancel your plans when your partner hasn't even made plans with you yet. Men like women that have their own life and have their own plans and have their own thing going. You don't want somebody that's just sitting around waiting on you. You definitely, but don't play yourself. Don't cancel your plans with your if you have a weekly girls' night out. Don't go cancel that for a maybe and sit at home and just wait on his beck and call. Dude, you are so playing yourself doing that. Number 6, your friends marvel at your ability to handle crisis. You're the go-to person when shit hits the fan. You seem to actually function better in crisis mode than you do in everyday life. What that is, Eric? Why do you function more in your codependence than in your?
Because there's an adrenaline rush. And adrenaline is like jet propulsion.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I get to fix something again.
Yep.
Okay, and then number 7, you always have an answer for everything. I swear, when I read this list, Eric, I was like, are you talking to me? Because it was at one point. You always have an answer for everything. You pride yourself on knowing what you do and how you do to help people. If you're wrong, it's never your fault, and you also never feel the need to apologize. Wow, that's so interesting. I think because the ego is so fragile at that point, you can't admit that you're wrong. What do you think?
Yeah, the ego doesn't want to. The ego may know that you're wrong.
Yeah.
But doesn't want to admit it to someone else, I think.
Yeah.
More often than not. When I've worked with people, and even from my own experiences in my past, it's like you realize it long before you're ready to say something about it in many.
Yeah.
A lot of people said, I'm sorry, it took so long. It just took me a long time to eat this crow.
Yeah.
Crow tastes way better when it's still warm.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm telling you, like, at first, I promise you, it's going to feel really yucky going against your ego and getting into your own BS and really starting to get real with yourself about your own BS. But after a while, you start seeing the positive results that come out of that, and how you start attracting more healthy and emotionally available people, less codependent people. You stop trying to build a boo. You start knowing your worth. Because after a while, you're like, you know what? That feels worse to have the wrong person there than it does to be by yourself.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, that is exactly why Robin Williams said it is like the most miserable thing is to be in a relationship and feel alone. It really is. And number 8, you have had a hard time opening up to people. These are signs that you might be codependent. If you have a hard time opening up to people because you've got such a warm heart and personality, and other people seem to easily open up to you, and while they might think that they know you, you're actually keeping them at arm's length, afraid to really let people in. Man, this is such a good article. Y'all go to shesaid.com if you want to read along with us. If you have any questions, you can write into the Matchmaker Hotline here on Edge Radio Network. Go to our Edge Radio Network page on Facebook. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to read that on air and answer your question. And we will be happy to give you a travel certificate if we pick your question, thanks to Meridate.com. You always have an answer for everything, and I think that just goes back to that ego. I don't want to look stupid. I want to look like I know everything, you know? Man, the ego is something else. Man, if you really just categorize all the problems that people have, you could probably put ego into half of it. And I've done that before, where I've been in a fight with my dude, and I'm like, talk me out of your spirit, don't talk me out of your ego. But when they're mad, it's like, screw that, I'm talking to you, screw that, I'm talking how I feel. It's hard. Do you have any recommendations how to get people out of their ego when they're really mad and you're trying to reach them to come back to their spirit to talk?
So I often hear people say, well, I'm just being authentic. Well, with authenticity, I didn't see that train coming. I didn't even hear the horn.
Yeah, they
so,
are.
In authenticity, you can express, I am angry, I'm upset, I'm hurt, I'm this, I'm that. You don't have to abuse the person and yell and scream at them.
Exactly.
There's a difference there. And so sometimes I hear people say, well, you know, you told us to be authentic with each other.
Yeah.
And now that you told us that, he's yelling at me and she's yelling at me. And I'm like, whoa. Authentic means you express how you really feel, not necessarily put that into toxic behavior.
Right.
I can express that I'm upset, mad, hurt, just as kindly as I can say, I love you, somebody.
Exactly. And that's, because it's interesting. I was talking to somebody about that. Like, his mom screamed at him all the time and was abusive to him. And then he turned around and he had the same behavior. It's like, why are you screaming? Right. Like, are you even aware? You've literally grown up in a house where screaming is the norm. So all you do is you scream. I'm like, you should be able to talk just as calmly as when you're calmed down as when you're in that moment. Because that's attacking the person, not the problem.
Right.
Do you really think that that's going to help or add fuel to the fire if you're sitting there and you're screaming and cussing when you're trying to actually work things out? That doesn't help. That only hurts. And especially for people who have a hard time opening up to people, if you have a partner that's going to scream at you and cuss at you and berate you every time you try to open up, they're eventually going to shut down. They're not going to get it. And those two things will not pass the disillusionment phase. They won't. Okay, number 9. You feel these are signs you might be codependent. You feel unhappy a lot of the time and you don't know why. Taking care of other people and never doing anything to take care of yourself, it takes a toll after a while. I mean, because that's where the resentment, I think, creeps in. Because when you're taking care of people and you're not saying anything and you're kind of being passive aggressive about it and you're just letting it slide, and then one day you blow up because you should have said something in the moment. And that's what I've said that too. The same person I was talking about. I'm like, dude, why wait until you're to that point of blowing up and you want to scream? Why not just say things as they bother you? Hey, this bothered me when you did that, or I would appreciate if we could do it this way. Like, I don't understand that, why you have to go to that 0 to 1,000.
Well, I think it builds up, and I think that people learn from their parents or aunts and uncles or grandparents, whoever raised them, and had an impact on who they became through life. And if you can learn to express even the most painful or angriest emotions with kindness, compassion, and love, you zoom right through this stage.
Interesting.
That is the key. Love is the way.
It really is. That's your message for today.
Love is the way.
Okay, so number 10, you might be codependent if you are secretly afraid that no one really loves or needs you. That's sad. As much energy as you spend trying to get out there and get everyone to meet their needs and to make them happy and be that people pleaser, you still worry that deep down people don't love you and that they don't need you either. Again, you've got to not try to get your love and your self-worth externally. It's not externally. The interdependence is what the goal is here. You've got to learn to be happy and healthy alone in the quiet by yourself without the noise. You know, some people go shopping, they go out dancing. I mean, dancing is cool, but I'm saying like people sometimes like just stay so busy that they're not comfortable sitting in the quiet. They're not comfortable because there's two parts to this whole spiritual connection. One is the prayer, right? But the other part is the meditation and the quietness. That's your answer. That's your request going up. These are your answers coming down. But if you can never be still and be quiet and be comfortable being alone, you will always stay codependent. You have to break it. I broke it. I broke it by moving to the desert, sitting out there for a year, and realizing I am codependent and I rescue people. And that's what I always did. And that came from my parents being divorced 3 times and not knowing what real love was and healthy. And my mom being an orphan, she never learned anything either. And my dad was the baby of 10 kids, and his dad died when he was 12. So he didn't have that man around when he was in those formative years as a man. So we just kind of learned what we learned. Or, you know, watched on TV or somebody told us, you know, this is what men do. Yeah, we were hatched. But, you know, and it's okay to say, even the most, let me tell you, there's no shame in realizing you have an issue with being codependent or building a boo or whatever your issue is. And we really need to quit stigmatizing mental health in this country. You know, 80% of people are on some kind of medicine for, it's a chemical imbalance in most cases. It's okay to say, I'm depressed, or I struggle with, you know, I attract abusive people, or I'm codependent, or whatever those things are. But you know what? No one can fix it for you. And while we recommend therapy all day long, you definitely should hit therapy. But the real work you have to do is in you. You have to do the work and find out, why is it that I am those things? But as long as you stay busy and you distract yourself and you jump relationship to relationship so that you don't have to feel the pain of what you've been through, you're going to just keep going through the cycle of codependence. Number 10, or we did that one. Number 11, you have a habit of keeping secrets and fudging the truth. Telling the whole truth often makes people unhappy and results in conflict. So, and conflict scares you. So to avoid it, you play fast and loose with the truth and keep secrets that you're afraid might hurt people. That's a big one. What do you think about that one, Eric?
Ooh, I'd rather know the truth than have somebody keep a secret from me to not hurt me.
Seriously.
I mean, really, being lied to hurts worse than anything else.
It's true. And I even had a friend one time who, my friend and several other friends knew her husband was a cheater because he had hit on all of us. And it was one of those things where we wanted to go tell her.
Wow.
And then when we did, she didn't believe us. She believed him. She thought we were, you know, she wasn't ready to hear the truth. But the one thing I don't want is for somebody to know something about me and think you're protecting me.
Right.
The truth will set me free. You tell me the truth and I'll be the judge of what I do with it. But I think if you're really a friend or somebody that, you know, is close to you, what do you think? What's the obligation to tell the truth, or do you just mind your own business?
If one of my friends had a woman that hit on me, I would have to look at which one of them was my friend first. And if it was her, let's say she had been a friend of mine for 20 years, and I had just met him and he had been a friend for a few months,
yeah,
I'd take her aside and say, this isn't it.
Yeah.
But if it was the other way around, and I had known him for 20 years and I just met her, I'd say, hey, this may ruin our friendship.
Yeah.
But I need to tell you how I interpret her behavior.
Exactly.
Or this is what was said. And I'd tell her first that that's how I felt, and that I would like her to go have a talk with him about it, or us, you know, what was inappropriate, so to speak.
And honestly, I'm okay with losing a friendship if I'm just trying to be good to you and just tell you the truth, and you're toxic, that you're not ready to hear it, and it's not even a slam against you. If you're just not ready to hear the truth, then that's okay, but when you're healed from it and you've gone through it, if you ever do leave it, you'll probably appreciate that somebody actually told you.
Absolutely.
I think
they
that's
come
like
back around and apologize.
that's like having
and
something
thank
in your
you.
teeth and like me not telling you, just letting you be on air.
Right.
Like, when you want me to tell you got spinach in your teeth, I mean, like, tell me. Okay, so number 12, you rarely think about what you want. How can you know what you want when you're so busy worrying about what the other partner wants, or your family or everybody else wants? You have to. You've got to rejuvenate yourself. You will burn out. You will. Your hair will get thin, your hair will fall out, you'll get stressed out, you'll gain weight, lose weight. The physical things will manifest to show your body that, dude, you are stressed to the max. Anxiety is really real. But if you don't think about what you want, how can you ever get your life on the right track? This is a big one for me, Eric, was you don't ask for help. I am so independent. Like, I don't, and I think because the way I grew up, it was very conditional love. My mom, being an orphan, really never attached to people as much as she attached to things. And even though she was a great mom in a lot of ways, but she was so independent, being an orphan, that she learned how to fend for herself. And I think that I kind of got that from her, where I'm so independent because I don't want anyone to. Sometimes in my own family, people will you'll tell them things that hurt you. It'll be the one thing they use against you to crush you.
Yeah.
And that's super brutal to go through. So I think in that sense, I don't ask for help because I don't want people to have anything over me to hold over my head, but I also don't want people to hurt me with the things I've confided in them as well. And, if you don't ask for help, you love to jump in and help other people, but you are reluctant to ask for help yourself. Past experiences taught you it's a bad idea to rely on others. And not everybody's your ex, not everybody's your mom, not everybody's your past. The thing is, there's like 8 billion people on this planet. Can you find one that you like? Yeah, I think you can. And number 14, you know exactly what's wrong with everyone else. I'm telling you, I've been a great matchmaker for 15 years, but helping myself is not the easiest, because then we have to, and I think that's why people go into this profession. Like, my sister's a psychologist, I'm a matchmaker. We went through those 3 divorces, we went through that trauma with our family, so now we're out trying to fix everybody else, and we're trying to bring love to the planet. And really, until this last year, I really realized how much of that is really something I had to do for me finally.
Yeah.
And that's why once you get past the shame of it, it's so important to not be caught up in the shame of what you've been through, because that's your testimony and that's how you help other people. If you sit up here and fake the funk and pretend like you know it all and you're perfect and you don't ever do anything wrong and you have no flaws, that's not real. You're only playing yourself. You can fool everybody else around you, but at the end of the night, when you're home alone in the dark and there's no one but you in your mind, you know the truth, right? And so you know what's wrong with everyone else. There's a saying in 12-step recovery programs that says, let it begin with me. I like that. Let it begin with me. And that's kind of how I felt when I was set on a mission to destroy the generational curses that were on my family. God basically told me, you're strong enough to do this. You are strong enough to do this. And I was hell-bent. I was not going to pass this down to my kids. It's not. And so it's like, it has to begin with me and getting real with myself and my own BS. But until you get to that point of let it begin with me, you're gonna be doomed to keep repeating these toxic codependent cycles. But if you would rather let it begin with someone else, and just know that where they should, and you know where they should start, you've got great plans for fixing other people's lives, but you're not letting it start with you, you're definitely codependent. And the last 2 here, Eric, number 15, making life decisions sends you into a panic. That's interesting, right?
That is interesting, yeah. While
you're prepared to tell everyone else what they should be doing, when it comes to making decisions about your own life, you become indecisive, even paralyzed, because you don't know what you want. You're terrified of making the wrong choice. Wow, that's interesting. Making life decisions should not send you into a panic.
Yeah.
I mean, deep thought, prayer, meditation, yeah, but a panic? But I get it. When you're codependent and you're at that point and you're trying to either break free, or you're fighting, or you're in that mood, you're in that moment where it's undeniable misery and you're still in it because you're so codependent that you won't let it go.
Right.
That I feel like sometimes God has to allow things to really hurt you where you're finally going to go, okay, it's hurt enough, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to stop. It's like we let our kids fall down sometimes because, hey, we told you, wear your seatbelt.
Right.
But life decisions should not send you into a panic. And lastly, you give until you can't give anymore. When your cup is empty, and I mean really empty, you're generous and you're kind and you're loving and understanding and patient, and then all of a sudden you snap. You become bitter and angry, which in turn makes you feel guilty. You end up withdrawing altogether because you don't know how to fix things. So if any of these things sound familiar, guys, there is hope for you. There is help for you. Seeing a therapist is a great start. And if you have family history of alcoholism or addiction, attending an Al-Anon meeting can be super helpful as well, as people can still need you and you can still need them. You just need to turn your codependence into
interdependence.
That's right. All right, guys. Well, that's our show today. So how do people follow you, Eric?
Oh, Facebook is ERIC space DAVIS, okay. Eric Davis. And that's a good way to contact.
Okay. You're not putting your phone number out there anymore?
Oh, sure. 713-397-7717. 713-397-7717. And it's better to text me first. I don't usually take a phone call if I don't recognize the number.
And to any of you 450 ladies that just friend requested Eric, if any of y'all want to actually meet him, holler at your girl. We'll do some live matchmaking on the show because y'all know y'all can't sit in the seat without me trying to matchmake you. Just ask Oscar. All right, guys. Well, we are out of here. Tomorrow, we're back on Tough Love Tuesdays with sex therapist Jen in the building. And tomorrow is my birthday show. So in case you're wanting to give me a gift, it's $Matchmaker Amber, just saying. So tomorrow's my birthday. Tomorrow's the birthday show. Super excited. It's going to be a super fun day. And we also have Dr. Shelley Canada coming on with Smiles by Canada to tell you why that first impression is everything. So stay tuned. We'll see you back tomorrow here at noon on the Matchmaker Hotline on the all-new Edge Radio Network. See y'all tomorrow.